Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Hyland. I am the founder of the Incubator, an online co-working space for women creatives. And I am a member of On Purpose Woman Global Community, and I'm in the role of host today. So, welcome to today's Connections Over Coffee gathering with the On Purpose Woman Global Community. I'm so glad you're here and that you are watching this on our YouTube channel, where you can also find lots of other amazing speakers there recorded. But I would love, as you're listening to this, to just think of people who you would like to share this recording with from our inspiring and insightful speaker today. So share it with others. So our speaker today is Ellen Koronet. And the topic is Flexiverts on the rise. Why we need to see ourselves and each other in unbounded ways. Yes, I love just the title, Ellen. Oh, I can't wait to hear what you share. But before we hear from Ellen, I want to just give you a few words about her. Ellen Coronet applies rigorous social scientific design to quizzes, assessments, and customer feedback interviews, achieving results that give both brand and customer a sense of agency and enthusiasm for what's next. For over 42 years, she has been a published author and speaker on many topics, including gamification and creative design thinking. Her proprietary creativity deck, Inner Muses and Mentors, and signature strategy processes help zero in on delivering unique outcomes. So you'll see the link in the show page description here, but her um, website is the letter L, LNK Creative.com. Okay, Ellen, take it away.
All right, here we go. I'm putting up slides because I love having the visual with there. So, hello, thank you for being here. We've got a great group of women in this On Purpose Woman meeting today. Really amazing how we can pull together from all different walks of life, all these wonderful things that everybody's doing. And in our discussion today, we talked about labels because we're all walking around with these labels getting slapped on us. So that's part of what I'm going to talk about today. And thank you for being here. Let's get my clicker working. Where to go? So what we're doing really is using language every day, all the time, sometimes without even using words. We're using language with our gestures, we're using language all over the place. But the actual words that get spoken into the world really, really, really matter. We use these to describe ourselves, and sometimes they're not spoken into the world, they're spoken into our own heads and our own hearts, right? So it's both internal and external. And this is setting expectations. And the more expectations we set, and the more we hear them over and over again, the more bounded we become by these little identifiers. And some of them are great. But now I'm going backwards. Let's get this going. So here's the way I see it. We have this inner world and we have an outer world. And when we're very young, our perceptions of ourselves and others are really more informed by that inner world, right? We're not being told what to expect and we're not being shown what to do as much. We are as we continue to go forward. But by the time we get to a certain age, a lot of those labels and ideas about how we see ourselves and others have become learned. This way, not that way. So, in the wrong hands, and even in that internal dialogue, those labels and learned expectations can really start to shut us down. So, all those fun little inner world ideas get pushed to the side and forgotten about. So what are labels, right? When they're on a package, they can inform us, and I won't even begin to get into whether that's good information or not. You can be the judge of that, but you get information from a label, right? And then they're also setting these expectations. There's all sorts of interesting work out there about what are the favorite brands in the UK and in the US, and what are the favorite brands and what are the worst brands. They come with lots of baggage, right? You really get used to being sort of moved into an emotional space when you see some of these brands, right? So, personality typing is also a form of labeling. And these labels can do the same thing that the package labels do. They tell us what's inside, they tell us what to expect. They give us the go to idea of what are our go to preferences for how we interact with people. And they can give teams and individuals that critical insight into how to communicate with each other, how to work with each other, how to honor the different styles and preferences that we see in each other and that we experience and that we evolve into over time. So that's the good side, but they can also set expectations that give us roles and sometimes paths to success and connections that can become really confining, right? Because we've stopped allowing our inner playfulness to help guide us when we're making decisions and playing these roles. And, I put 2 personality typing tools that are most well known up on this page because these are the ones that I kind of have the most difficulty with because they require a really good psychotherapist or a really good coach or a really good human guide to begin to parse back to get outside of the boundaries of being labeled with these outcomes that you get from Myers-Briggs, which is the extrovert, introvert, sensor, intuitive, thinker, feeler, judger, perception, and then this is the one over here near the bottom of the screen is often called OCEAN for ocean. It's a psychological tool that's been used and evolved starting with Jung and so on over much time. So in the right hands, these can be absolutely wonderful. But the problem is that most validated assessments end up being what psychologists often say is true, but not real. Like you need to think about, yes, this is absolutely validated truth, but is it really real and useful in my life? And is it really taking into account all of the context that's going on around it? So especially when you don't have this experienced, skilled coach or human guide, you are often being asked to make forced choices like yes, no, either or, this or that, are you A or are you B? You're pushed into false dichotomies all the time, you know, and some of the questions I pulled up here on the right come straight out of Chat GPT when I asked how are the validated assessments defining introverts and extroverts, a lot of these are false dichotomies and they are not situational. So you need to think about, when you're in a certain situation, when you're in a big family gathering, do you feel drained after that kind of social event? Or do you feel drained after being up on stage? Whatever. There's just so many different contexts that these questions need to be put into. They're often aspirational bias is playing in, which means everybody wants to be seen as someone who XYZ. So you're not necessarily going to admit, even to yourself, that maybe that's not you all the time. And they make big globalizations. So what happens when we give people these false dichotomies is they end up choosing the point in the middle, like of a 5 or a 10-point scale, 11-point scale. They'll go to the middle because they don't really wanna say what's on the south end or what's on the north end, and it's just like a magnet. You're being forced to end up in a place that you don't necessarily feel you belong, so you pick the middle. So this is why psychologists have told us for many, many, many years, most of us are ambiverts. We're not introverts all the time. We're not extroverts all the time. So let's just go to the middle and call us ambiverts. But I've been doing a lot of research on this. And what I've found is that those questions, all those difficulties that I just described are really at play for most of the assessments that go after introvert extrovert. So that's the one that I've started with, and I'll show you some of my results where I've changed this up in a couple of minutes. So some clues to spot a true and real typing tool would be one that makes you feel seen and heard. There aren't very many yes or no's, and if any, and they're things that are sort of easy for you to say yes or no to. You're not feeling like you have to pick the right side of that. They're non-oppositional, both sides of different kinds of qualities that can complement each other get equal time. So you're asked, not only do you like being alone to recharge, but do you also like being in a group of people to get energized in certain situations and at times. They're contextual, so you're not feeling tempted to say, well, it depends. As soon as you say it depends, you're going to end up, as a researcher, you're going to end up getting a lot of people in the middle. Everyone won't answer positive or negative because they want to be seen that way. So that's that aspirational bias is not at play. And the scores can be equal and can change over time. So I put up a couple here that I like. The one called DISC, which is dominance, influence, compliance, and being steady, at least in this particular version of it. This one is a little bit better because it allows you to, that they're more dynamic and you can be strong on two at the same time and they work together. And there are quite a number of good assessments like that. And I'm not going to throw everybody under the bus. I'm not saying don't ever believe a Myers-Briggs. I'm just saying you need a good guide. And don't become too attached to the labels that you get when you take these things. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, I'm trying to look at the time here somewhere. Um, Maybe Andrea, you can help me keep on track if I start to run out of time. Um, the what we're going to talk about now is what has become my passionate go-to. I've got to get this out there is I've figured out a way to ask a lot of these kinds of questions that make it more gamified and that allow people to be more interactive with the tool itself, and then in pulling it all together so that we're turning these boxes upside down, we're allowing ourselves to be collaborative with one another, we're telling true stories, and we're unleashing all kinds of possibility. Here's some examples of the kinds of paired scales that I'm using in my assessment for introversion and extroversion. And it is why I am coming to the conclusion that most of us are actually able to be flexiverts, which is my new term for it, whenever they need to be. So I'm not just asking, you know, that you can handle lots of noise or crowds don't usually bother you. But I'm also asking you if if you feel like sensitive, like you feel everything. And you could be strong on both of those, strong on one, weak on the other, weak on both of those, right in the middle on both of those. So I'm letting people tell me how they feel, not trying to push them into a category. and with all of the measures that I'm using. And here's what I'm finding. It's so exciting. And this is really from about a year ago. I now have easily double that in the number, but I haven't done the additional analysis on it. But what I'm really finding is that a lot of people, even if they are labeled as extroverts, are telling me they're actually an introvert, about half of the people. And the other half are either able to move back and forth easily or they feel they're extroverts. But our society seems to think there are a lot more extroverts out there, and they're the ones who are our leaders, and they're the ones who are really driving everything. And in fact, nobody in my study is a really strong extrovert, and that's what I'm about to show you. So the introverts that are coming out of this, and the way I define this is when I'm measuring both introversion and extroversion levels in every person. When the introversion level is much higher than the extroversion level, that's where they fall into this category. And this is, as you saw, a large portion of the initial people that I included in this study. And what they're telling me is that they love that being alone time. They have a strong preference for that reflection and that going inside time. So the definition of introvert is not changing. All I'm changing is how you view yourself as that and how attached you become to that label. Because when we look at the extroverts, they have a lot of introversion too. Like this is the really exciting finding here is it's not an either or. Like you may have a really strong level of extroversion, but you also value that chance to go inside because it's good energetic hygiene. Like, come on, people. Let's not force ourselves to just always be out there. So they love their time together in groups, and the word alone does not pop up in this word cloud nearly as much as it did for the introverts. And then you have your flexiverts, who are the people who have a really even level of both introversion and extroversion. How about that? So this is the average score that came from the people I defined as flexiverts, and they gave me the exact words that you just saw on the first two word clouds, which is, they love being in groups, they need feel people out around go, but look at the word alone, it's still coming up pretty strong. So this is where I think most of us actually really live, and we're able to be flexible with it. This is a little bit more detail on that, and in each of these um, groups, I found measures that I didn't expect, that I did not find in my whole literature search. Visionaries and believers are the ones who can really go out there and feel comfortable with being an extrovert more of the time, right? And they're rule benders. I did not expect that. I did not see that in the other literature. So when it matters, they'll go to bat for you, right? And when we introvert, we're inward thinkers. We're listening before jumping in. We're highly sensitive. And this is not usually what's measured in these other assessments. We see the big picture, the forest, not the trees. We tend to be late adopters. So there's some really interesting nuances coming out when you allow people to speak for themselves rather than push it on them. So here is the way you can take the quiz. It's both in English and in Spanish. And I'm working with a marketing research colleague who does Hispanic and Latin American research. And so this is a language specific version of the same quiz. So that is basically what I have to tell you today. And I just invite you to go out and let me see if there was something else here. No, that was it. Okay. I invite you to go out and look at each other in a more, open and entertaining and a playful way. And let's not get so caught up in um, who we think we should be for everybody.
Ellen, thank you. And I know that we'll come back into the group as we begin to close the recording of this talk. And there are people who have been posting in the comments a few questions and things. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, I just want to encourage everyone to show some love to Ellen. You can unmute yourself, do some woohoo! Yay.
Thank you.
All right, there's lots of clapping and then hearts coming up and all of that. So yeah,
Thank you.
Round of
so
applause.
much appreciated about you. And just thank you so much, Ellen, for once again sharing your wisdom and your heart with us today. I took a whole bunch of notes and even connected some more dots about having heard you talk about similar. I mean, it's like you're coming from the same place of this is the work that you do. And so every time I hear you speak about it, it's like, oh, okay, oh yeah, okay, a few more dots are connected there. So thank you. And just to everyone who's listening, thank you for being part of this vibrant, supportive, and purpose-filled community. If you'd like to learn more about how to get involved in our Zoom or in-person gatherings or explore On Purpose Woman magazine, just head over to, you'll see the link in the show page, but it is opwgc.com. We'd love to connect with you again soon. Thanks for taking the time to listen and put a comment into the under the show page also. So until next time, stay inspired, stay authentic, and stay connected. Thank you all.
Thank you.